During World War II, while Europe was drowning in chaos, one of the most glamorous women in the world secretly became a hero. Her name was Josephine Baker, a world-famous American-born singer, dancer, and actress who had taken France by storm in the 1930s. People adored her for her voice, her humor, and her iconic banana skirt dance. But behind her fame and dazzling smile, Josephine hid a dangerous secret. When Nazi Germany invaded France in 1940, Josephine refused to flee. Instead, she joined the French Resistance, a secret movement fighting against Nazi occupation. She didn't carry a gun. Her weapon was her fame. She could walk into parties filled with Nazi officers, charming them with laughter while secretly listening to their conversations. Josephine became a spy for the French intelligence agency. Using her celebrity status, she traveled across Europe and North Africa, collecting information from German officials who never suspected that the beautiful woman sitting beside them was memorizing their military secrets. She even smuggled classified information written in invisible ink on her sheet music, so if anyone inspected her luggage, it would just look like songs and musical notes. When Nazi officers visited her estate, she pretended to be a silly entertainer while secretly hiding resistance members in her basement. If she was ever caught, she would have been tortured or executed. But Josephine was fearless. "France made me who I am," she said. "Now I will give my life for France."
With her charm and intelligence, Josephine became one of the most valuable spies in the French resistance. She used her concert tours as a perfect cover. Officially, she was performing for troops and dignitaries. Secretly, she was gathering information about Nazi movements, troop locations, and political alliances. Her fame allowed her to cross borders with little suspicion. Her luggage often waved through checkpoints by officers eager for her autograph. She hid coded messages inside her musical scores using invisible ink or microdots. To the naked eye, it was just a melody. But to her handlers, it was a map, a list of names, or details of German supply lines. Sometimes she even pinned small notes inside her underwear, knowing that male soldiers would never dare search her body. In 1941, Josephine fell ill with pneumonia and nearly died, but as soon as she recovered, she returned to work. She moved to North Africa, performing for Allied soldiers and secretly transmitting intelligence to the resistance. Her estate became a safe house for fugitives and other spies. Despite constant danger, she kept smiling, using her stage persona to mask her espionage. When the war finally ended, Josephine was honored by the French government for her incredible service. She received the Croix de Guerre and was made a Chevalier of the Legion of Honor by General Charles de Gaulle himself. But Josephine didn't stop being brave after the war. She later became a powerful voice in the fight for civil rights in America, marching alongside Martin Luther King Jr. and refusing to perform for segregated audiences. She had fought Nazis in Europe and racism in America, and she never gave up on her belief that courage, love, and dignity could defeat hatred.
Josephine's post-war years were as remarkable as her wartime heroism. After witnessing the horrors of fascism, she dedicated her life to promoting peace and equality. She adopted 12 children from different countries, calling them her Rainbow Tribe. Her dream was to prove that people of all races and religions could live together in harmony. She built a home for them in France, where visitors could see this living example of unity. "I want to show the world," she said, "that children of different colors can still be brothers." Each child spoke a different language, practiced a different faith, and represented the world Josephine wished to create, one without hate. In the 1950s and 60s, Josephine returned to the United States. This time, she didn't come as just an entertainer. She came as an activist. When American clubs refused to let black performers stay in their hotels, she publicly called them out. When she was offered shows in segregated venues, she refused to perform.
In 1963, she stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial beside Martin Luther King Jr. during the March on Washington. Wearing her French military uniform covered in medals, she spoke to the crowd about the importance of unity and justice. Her voice trembled, but her message was powerful. I have walked into the palaces of kings and queens and into the homes of presidents, but I could not walk into a hotel in America and get a cup of coffee. The crowd erupted in applause. In that moment, Josephine Baker, the same woman who once danced on Parisian stages and spied on Nazis, had become a symbol of global courage and equality. Josephine continued performing well into her later years, never losing the fire that had driven her through war and injustice. In 1975, she launched a grand comeback show in Paris, celebrating 50 years of her career. The event was a glittering success, attended by celebrities, politicians, and even members of the royal family. The audience gave her standing ovations every night. But only days after the premiere, tragedy struck. On April 12, 1975, Josephine Baker was found peacefully in her bed, having passed away in her sleep. She was 68 years old. Her bedside table was covered with glowing newspaper reviews praising her final performance, a perfect farewell to a woman who had lived every day with purpose and passion. At her funeral, over 20,000 people gathered in the streets of Paris. The French military honored her with a 21-gun salute, making her the first American-born woman ever to receive such recognition in France. Her coffin, draped in the French flag, was carried through the city she had loved and defended. Even decades after her death, Josephine's legacy continues to inspire. She proved that courage comes in many forms, sometimes through laughter, sometimes through song, and sometimes through silent defiance in the face of hatred. In 2021, nearly half a century after her death, Josephine Baker was inducted into the Pantheon in Paris, one of France's highest honors, reserved for national heroes. Her spirit now rests among scientists, poets, and presidents, a lasting reminder that one woman's bravery, wit, and love can change the course of history.